Hello and welcome to another episode of the Three Donkeys podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. I'm the father, the most beautiful beast in the world, Jerry. And as always, I am joined by two fellow donks, Jonathan Bales and Peter Jennings. Let's start with Peter, fresh off a golf trip. Peter, what's going on?
Yeah, just got back. I did a 24-hour golf trip with some business guys and had a great time. Back and ready to rock. Excited to be on with you donkeys. Obviously a lot going on in the DFS, sports betting, and crypto world. So, yeah, excited to be on with you boys. And Bales is looking extra dapper for us tonight. So it's especially exciting.
I thought I might dress up one time. I'm always wearing the tank tops. We got the backwards hats. And, this is a very serious podcast. And I got the button up on tonight.
Yeah. I actually am not wearing a hat for the first time. And actually, I didn't do this for a show I did for DKTV. And people were writing and calling me Tom Hanks from Philadelphia and stuff like that, which, it's pretty insulting, but I'm going to stick with it. Peter, for those that don't know, Peter's title at the Action Network #Corporate Life is biz dev, director of biz dev, if I'm not mistaken. Is this golf trip? Were you developing business on this golf trip, Peter?
I was developing lots of business. Yes, in fact, I was. No, there's some good connections. I played at a place, and you know who was actually at the golf club last night, and I almost went up to him and asked him who he thought was better, Jalen Ramsey or Patrick Peterson. Was Larry Fitzgerald. At Whisper Rock. So for any golf guys out there, one of the best private clubs. John Rahm's there. Phil Mickelson, it's his home course. The back tees on one of the courses are called Lefty. But Larry Fitzgerald's an avid golfer. He plays every Monday and Tuesday. And I wanted to go up to him and say, hey, when Jalen Ramsey shadowed you, you only got 2 catches and it was for -4 yards. So who's better, him or your teammate, Patrick Peterson, who also is an avid golfer out there in Arizona? Was fortunate to meet him at Tiger Jam. So I actually love this stuff. I really had a good time, met a lot of really good people. A lot of successful business guys, and yeah, hopefully it leads to business for us down the road. They're all fascinated by the sports speculation space.
Oh yeah. All right, let's talk about the sports speculation space. DFS for the last week, I think, was pretty profitable for both me and Peter, from what I can gather. Probably not as profitable as it should have been because both of us didn't have our best lineups in any higher stakes GPPs. I, for one, am not tilting about it still. Peter is probably still tilting about it because he's always tilting. But I had, for the first time in my life, a sweep on DK. And I also me and Peter had almost the same lineup on FanDuel without talking to each other, except we had a different kicker and a different defense. I had Goatkowski, Peter had Zerline, and I believe I had Bengals and Peter had Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. So we had the same lineup outside of that. So Peter had the nuts. I was like 19 points off still. The cash game nuts. Peter, are you still on tilt about not getting that lineup into GPPs?
I'm on rabbit tilt. I mean, this year is just ridiculous. I feel like every subtle thing that could go wrong has gone wrong. An FD, I had the Stone Nuts, so would have won the 1,500, the 2K, all the big tournaments by 8 points. Of course, had that 530 contest, all of which were 50-50s, 3-mans, and head-to-heads, which I've gotten a better job of sorting those contests specifically to make sure I have the right teams in the right places. And for whatever reason, I did not. I ended up moving a tournament team for the Monster because I want to have every team in the 300, and I made another team for that specific contest. So I ended up having it nowhere. That would have given me leverage. And I've had some bad weeks, I've had some good weeks, and I just haven't really capitalized on the good weeks. On DraftKings, I had one great cash lineup, or not great, but good cash lineup with Julio that took down the 3 Donkeys 3-man. And then I had an awful team, which Levitan you saw in the 4-man on the edge. So kind of a mixed bag in cash, and then in GPPs, I donated more money to qualifiers and got smoked in the tournaments on DraftKings. So what could have been an amazing week ended up not being that great. I was all in on Julio and whatnot and cash, and just didn't quite have the right combos. All in on Julio and Antonio Brown on FD. So it's just a little bit frustrating. You're in the same boat. You ran that team and all these head-to-heads, and Yeah, there's nothing worse than having a great team and not having it in big tournaments.
Yeah, my team was actually really poorly correlated. It had like 3 Falcons with the defense and like no correlation with Russ Wilson. Like it's like chalky Corey Davis and chalky Jack Doyle, which I didn't love. So
Chalk went off.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I didn't really have regrets about it. Bales, how did your DFS week go?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't play a ton of cash just because you guys didn't have Julio in that. So obviously, like very little shot there. Overall, I was up just a little bit on the week, so it was okay. I think we talked about this before, but don't you guys put your top cash lineup into tournaments just because it's like for psychological reasons, even if you don't think it's like the right EV thing, that you just don't want to have that thing go off and you would have won the 1,500 and 300 and you know, you're not in it.
I specifically don't put it in like the expensive tournaments, but yeah, I put it in all the basically like whatever the $300 or $400 tournament and lower. And of course, this last Sunday morning, I ended up hedging and like making 1 or 2 extra teams, and then somehow moved, like I mentioned, another team onto the monster, and like just so stupid. Like I just am such a freaking.
Was it an Excel issue?
Not an Excel issue. No, literally me. I like moved the teams around. So I had everything sorted right, set up correctly going into Sunday. And then like I was just debating these 2 versus 2s, the 3 versus 3s. And like my team that ended up being the best had some negative correlation. Like it had Coleman and Julio Jones and whatnot. It wasn't bad. I mean, I still had Matt Ryan, but like I just, for whatever reason, moved another team that had Cook, so I thought was going to be really chalky. And I just moved to another team that I thought was going to be a little more contrarian for the monster in some leagues. And it's just a classic Jennings hedging himself out of all the money. It's been a theme this year. So, yeah, frustrating to say the very least. But, yeah, I'm a donkey, and that's why we're on this podcast.
Bales, have you been playing bigger since the acquisition, since Bitcoin's rise? Have you been playing bigger? Are you still playing like the same as what you were last season?
No, it's been the same outside of I've taken a few chances and some cues. So, but selling a little bit of that. So it's not significantly more. It's just like I feel comfortable making a certain amount of lineups because I do every lineup by hand. I don't max enter really anything. Once in a while I'll do it. Like if there's overlay or something, I'll quick, create 150 lineups or something like that if I think that's right. But otherwise I make like anywhere from like 35 to maybe 45 lineups across the 2 main sites, and takes a lot of time, and I enter those into what I think are going to be profitable contests, and I'll gamble a little bit for fun. I think there's some equity that we talked about in some of the cues for us, but otherwise, no, I haven't like ramped it up a crazy amount. Probably could do that if I played cash, but I don't know that.
Well, you could start playing the Thunderdome every week.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be profitable for me. I think that a qualifier will be, even though it's super volatile. I think I'm going to be much better at that type of payout structure than a Thunderdome versus the guys who are just better at projecting players than I am. And there's not like a super great reason to be really contrarian in those. It's like a it's a mix, but it's not it's obviously not like a millionaire maker, of course, but it's not even like the 300, which is my favorite stakes to play, and the one that I think sets up best for the types of lineups that I create.
Peter, don't you think Bales should be playing the Thunderdome? He's so #rich.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Bales is a freaking nit. That makes no sense. I mean, the guy's freaking crushing crypto, doing very well in a lot of aspects of life, and can't pull the trigger on the freaking Thunderdome.
Maybe I'm not a nit in some other areas. Maybe DFS isn't the area where I'm putting my money. You never know.
Yeah, he's putting it in Titcoin. No, but seriously, I think in the Thunderdome, everybody kind of plays their cash. I mean, Peter can tell better than me, but it seems like a lot of people are playing their cash lineup. When you get a Thunderdome that's like 100 entries or something, don't you think something contrarian could really work, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a blend. I mean, the one thing that Bales is pointing out that I think makes sense given how he plays is the structure. I mean, the Thunderdome is paying out typically 20% of the field, and obviously there's a lot of value in just in the money cashes. But yeah, I still think Bales should be playing it. I mean, you're good at football. This is the time to be doing it. We got a good year to fire, and Bales should just stop being in it. That's just the end of the day. That's the bottom line.
Dude, of like all my friends and stuff, like they know like generally what I'm doing. I am crazy, right? Like I'm taking on so much risk doing all these different things. And to Peter, I'm like the biggest fucking nit like of all time. Like
No, I'm somewhat joking. You're definitely not like a nit, but I do think
I'm a nit among like the top 100 gamblers in the world. Like they're like the people who take on the most risk of anyone. Right. But if I tell people like other people like investors or something how much money I have in crypto or like whatever, they think it's way too much.
Yeah, and my friends, it's the same thing for me. My friends are like, "Oh, so you're running the mile? Like, how much are you running for?" Like, they're like, "Oh, you're not going to bet like a couple hundred on the race." I was like, "Well, yeah, I try to motivate ourselves, and like a couple hundred's not going to do it." So then start telling them how much like I stand to lose if I get last, and they're like, "Oh my God, you better start running right now." I'm like, "God, yeah, I know. You don't got to tell me, bro. I got to start running." One last thing on this.
Go ahead, Levitan. Go.
I was going to say one thing we can hit on, maybe we shouldn't hit on it today, but one thing we can hit on before the end of the year is when you're having a good year and tax issues, tax implications as you come to the end of the year, I think is worth talking about for sure. We don't have to talk about it now, but generally speaking, if you're having a good year, you should be playing, maybe not should be, but you can get a discount at the end of the year on your taxes, even if you lose based on Peter can explain it.
It's not a discount, but
yeah.
It's much better than if you're down. Like
right.
if you're down, like there's no like the incentives is different, but you can take more shots when you're up because if you lose, you're only obviously you're gonna have that tax liability. So
right.
That's one of the biggest challenges, honestly, and we can talk about that at some other point in time. Just the challenges of being a professional DFS player or basically speculating on things, being a gambler. The tax consequences are very harsh and. One of the biggest things is losing. And I think one thing that we've talked about a little bit, in the past and in different forms is just how smart you have to be and how critical it is to adjust your bankroll and everything once the new year starts. So definitely something to be cognizant of. And actually recently heard some interesting tips around land and how you can leverage charitable land for tax reasons.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's something I need to do more research and we can talk about it another time.
I have a call with some big guy. This is I don't know if I ever said this on the pod, but I've always done my taxes myself every year. And so this is my which has been like pretty bad. I do them in like 90 minutes. It's really bad. But it's a disaster actually. But I talked to some guys this year. I'm going to get some professional help. I'm going to introduce you to them, Levitan. I have a call on Friday. But yeah, there's apparently a lot of stuff you can do with crypto. Crypto, I guess, is sort of treated like stocks, and like if you trade for like similar stocks, it can have a different tax consequence than selling or trading for other types of crypto. It's really weird, but there's a lot of sort of weird things that you can do to reduce your tax liability that are completely legal for whatever reason, but that I haven't taken advantage of. Have you like adjusted your strategy at the end of the year?
Yes.
Peter, based on that?
Yes.
I've never once thought about it.
Oh, I've thought about it a lot, just like throughout time, and again, we can go down this road maybe in more depth. But the worst downswing I ever had, and the scariest downswing I ever had, was January 2015. 2014, I had the $1 million win, and it was easily my most dominant just DFS stretch through college football that year and all this stuff. And then I lost a lot in January, and I also had the tax bill for 2014. So that's something to be really cognizant of. And don't be a donkey like Bales. If you're making good money, definitely go out and hire a CPA. That's common sense. I mean,
oh my God, Bale's such a disaster with that. Yeah, even for me, like I had like when I've won like a couple different poker tournaments, like not for a ton of money, but for like 50K a couple times, and then like it comes to the end of the year and you're thinking about what your taxes are going to be, and you're like, man, I can play like a 5K or a 10K poker tournament, and if I lose, then it's obviously comes off my winnings for the year, so it's just like a straight write-off off your taxes, so it's like a 30% rebate or 35% rebate on your buy-in. So yeah, everybody who
it's not still a straight rebate though. You're still losing the money.
You lose the money, but you get 35% off your taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're still losing. Like I think there's you can change your tolerance a little bit, but you're still losing. Like
right.
Because people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like you're still losing.
No, right. So yeah, let's say you play a $10,000 tournament. Of course, you lose the 10,000, but if you were up 50 going into that, then your tax liability for the year is 40,000 instead of 50,000. That's all.
Right. I understand the line of
thinking. Yeah, it does change it for sure. It's
yeah, we can talk about that more as the new year comes. All right.
Mile update, just real quick. I mean,
real quick on the mile. Yeah, I'm not revealing anything, so there's nothing to talk about with the mile. The race is going down on Friday, December 15th. Have we hired a camera staff and announcing staff? Where are we at with that?
We definitely don't have a camera staff. We're gonna have to work on this.
I mean, are we planning to Periscope again, and then like that's it?
We're gonna have to figure this out.
Fine by me.
We need some advice there. We need to figure that out. There's nothing formal planned at this point. People. There's mixed reviews on my announcing and filming last time.
If anyone has any great ideas or wants to volunteer camera work, email Scott at the3donkeys@gmail.com with some ideas, and we'll take those. I think we need to do probably a better production than last time.
Yeah. Mixed reviews mostly being bad, obviously. That was
yeah. No, the announcing was great. You were just too far away.
All right.
It's tough. Maybe in the middle of the field this time. I don't
know. I booked my hotel. I booked my flight. I have my training regimen set up for the week leading up. I have my eating regimen prepared. I have my rest regimen prepared.
What the fuck, Levitt?
I am ready. I am ready to go to war. The only thing I need to do now is start running, and I'll be fine.
That sounds like what I did last time. Just like do everything except like try really hard with the training.
And by everything, come up with a mental strategy to win.
Yeah, the mental strategy. Actually, I have a really good one this time. You guys are fucked. You guys are gonna be. I wouldn't be surprised if you run a 9-minute mile with my mental game.
I haven't seen BA tweet in a while about music or injuries or anything like that, or like my face. So who knows what he's up to. I think I saw him win a couple seats to the live final.
He's smashing this last week. He won 2 on Thanksgiving, I think, and another one this weekend. He's coming in hot, boys. He's hoping for a big week.
Right.
Can you tell me what you're going to be doing like the day before or 2 days before Levitan? Like, are you going to be running on Thursday or whatever?
I'm going to be working, dude. I'm going to Miami to work, run this race, and turn around and come home. That's all I'm doing.
Are you going to run on Thursday?
Thursday? I'm not running the day before the race. Are you crazy? Yeah, I need all my.
That's crazy. I'm going to run
the day before the race.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, bro.
All right.
I'm just so happy I didn't commit to this.
Yeah.
I want more offensive props, but man, I would be just toast. Absolutely toast.
There's better ones than this. We weren't being creative.
Nobody wants action. Like, no, you haven't heard from anybody that wants to bet this race at all, Peter?
People talk about it. They just keep asking for outrageous prices. It's like, when did like you and Empire Makers like, yeah, I want bales 5-1. It's like, no, screw that.
On the win?
Yeah, he just wanted you. Like, I don't know if we specified on the win or if it was versus BA, but yeah, I'm off giving crazy odds. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when we actually.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of late action, like on the tennis, like in the frying pan match. Like we just had our bet, and then but like in the 24 hours before the actual match. Like I got a bunch of DMs from people wanting to bet, so maybe that'll happen again.
Yeah, that tennis match, we're gonna have to. That's what we need to put some production value into. We need to find a good sponsor. I mean, there's some frying pan company out there that's ready to get huge because
we should do that actually. Levitan, when are you getting that thing off? When we play racquetball?
It's going well. I think at this point I can almost pretty much take it off. The problem is it's been stiff for so long that I literally like can't bend it now. So I'm just going to take a little bit to get back to normal. But yeah, I mean, I'm almost ready to play.
All right.
When did Dr. Wang say to take it off?
Yeah, Dr. Wang said, I saw him last week. He said, you got to keep it on for like 2 to 3 more weeks. But I don't even have a follow-up appointment with him. He's like, after 2 to 3 more weeks, just like take it off. I don't have to see you. He looked at my x-rays and he said everything looks good. So yeah, now we're just being safe.
All right.
Shout out to Dr. Wang. All right, we kind of buried the lead here because crypto has had one of the wildest 24 hours, I think, outside of the fork, the failed fork, I guess, or the Bitcoin Cash attack. I think this is the wildest day of crypto, wildest 24 hours of crypto that I've seen since I've been involved since May. Let's go to our crypto expert, Bales here. We hit the 10K mark, and then 10 hours later we hit the 11K mark, and then at one point today it was back down to like 8,800. And meanwhile, ETH and LTC and all the alts are also going absolutely bananas. Were you trading through this disaster, or not disaster? Were you trading through this madness, and did you expect kind of a dip once we got up to 11K?
I wasn't sure first of all, the fact that I'm the crypto expert on this podcast is
like, you wrote a blog about it. That means you're the expert.
It's ridiculous. Can't stress enough. No idea what I'm doing. But I didn't really know what was going to happen. Of course, I thought that it was going to drop at some point. Like my portfolio went up like 15 days in a row or something crazy. Like it was just never going to continue like that. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Also, people saying that's a crash, like it's like around the same price that it was yesterday. Like it just dropped quite a bit. I did try to buy more not at the true bottom because that was pretty quick, but near the bottom, and I just couldn't do it anywhere. Like everything was crashing, and the prices were crazy. I also thought about, like, right when it happened, putting it into Tether, which is like a supposedly like the equivalent of putting it like transitioning it into cash type of thing. It's roughly around the value of $1. So if you think that crypto overall or Bitcoin or whatever you own is going to drop, you might put it into Tether. But the Tether prices were so ridiculously low that they were encouraging you to keep your coins or trade, that I didn't do that. I traded a little bit that worked out, but just like very minor, is pretty much a wash. Otherwise, I didn't really buy or sell. I tried to buy, couldn't, and it was not a good day in terms of where the peak was. But overall, where I am right now was like probably a little bit down from where I was last night. So, it actually wasn't that big of a deal, but the emotional swing was pretty big just because it was going so crazy and then dropped so much. And from where I am right now, I was down like, I don't know, the 15% or something more earlier in the day. So it's gone back up quite a bit, but I think it's probably a good thing overall for like all these new people came in and bought Bitcoin, and probably they're about even, but they've gone through one of the bigger swings that we've had recently over the past few months, and that's what it's like, and it's good that they experienced that now. So I think it was overall probably a positive day, even though we all lost some money.
Two things. First of all, this, like, the 10K mark, like, really sparked something with people. I was getting texts from people who I never thought in a million years would be interested in crypto, texting me being like, hey, how do I buy? Like, blah, blah, blah. Just so absurd. I'm sure, like, all the exchanges have signed up a ton of new people in the last few days, which is interesting. Question for you, Bales, quickly. Have you taken any profits off the table? Have you thought about taking profits off the table yet, or are you just all in, let it ride?
No, I haven't taken any profits. I think that that's not the worst idea. I wrote about this, like if you invested some amount and then it grew really rapidly, even if you think it's smart to keep it in, you might take that initial investment out so that you're on a free roll, so it affects you differently and maybe you make better decisions in the future. It does feel differently when you're on a free roll, obviously, than when you have downside to be down from like where your initial investment. But I don't. That's not a rational thing. Like it's either good or it's not to be in crypto and to have certain coins. It's either a good decision, it's plus EV, or it's not. And if it is, you should have X% of your overall net worth in it. And the only reason you would take profits is because it grows so much that the percentage of your net worth that's now in crypto is so high that it becomes too risky, that the EV is no longer worth it, and you want to limit your range of outcomes and really like protect against certain downside, that you would take profits for that reason. But taking profits for another reason, I think, is irrational and not something that I would do until it's like a percentage of my net worth that I would no longer be willing to stomach that risk.
Okay, for our other crypto expert, Peter, now that we have seen the 11K mark, what is the outlook going forward? Are we going to push back over 11K? What are we thinking?
Well, again, not even close to an expert. Far, far, far from an expert. Bales said he's a 3 out of 100, and maybe I'm a 2 out of 100 looking at this stuff. I have no idea where the price is going. That's, speculation that I'm in no position to make, but still very interested in it, obviously, and still a long-term holder and a believer in the space in general. One thing that we're not talking about that I think is a huge aspect of this is Japan being basically the powerhouse of the Bitcoin market. And one of their big, potentially even bigger, price hurdle from a psychological standpoint was Bitcoin going over 1 million yen. And that also recently happened. And Japan, I believe they legalized this as a currency, and it's not part of the 8% consumption tax. And they've basically registered these exchanges as well. So there's a big push in Japan, which is a really interesting kind of economy. And I think that worldwide, even with more volatile countries in terms of their currency, like Venezuela, that's been a huge part of the growth of crypto. So it's really interesting to me. I definitely have been following it super closely. Today has been a roller coaster in terms of the price. I mean, it's wild just watching the fluctuation, but being aware of the things outside the U.S. I think is really interesting. One thing that we haven't had a chance to talk about as well is what happened on Black Friday, where I believe Coinbase had over 100,000 signups. And what I think happened there was just total FOMO from all these people who heard about Bitcoin and crypto for the first time or talked about it more extensively with their family during Thanksgiving. So there's all these wild events, these different psychological price barriers, but yeah, it's still very volatile, very speculative, but the technology to me is very disruptive, and I'm a big believer in the need for decentralized applications.
Quickly, Bales, if you drop dead tomorrow, you're just walking down the street, you get hit by a bus, what happens to your crypto? Is it just in the ether and, pun intended, forever?
No, I gave my mom and my dad the instructions to get it off of my Trezor. So they someone would be able to get it. Yeah. And I have, my passcode and my 24 words are in 2 different locations, and they know one of those.
Interesting. Yeah. I recently made a will for the first time in my life because obviously like I have a kid now and everything. So went and made a will, thought I took care of everything in the will, but, did not include crypto. So I'm pretty sure if I drop dead tomorrow, it would just be like, what happens if somebody doesn't have anything, like doesn't have a will? They didn't tell anybody how to get it. It's just like gone, right?
Well, I mean, It depends on where you have it, I guess. You have it on like a Treasure or a Ledger or something?
So, well, yeah, I'm mostly on exchanges actually.
I don't know. I don't know how they handle that. I have no idea actually about the money that's on exchanges. With the Trezor, if they just like knew your passcode or knew the key to get into the Trezor, they would be able to access that. If you don't, it would be almost impossible, or I don't want to say impossible, but next to impossible. I retweeted a story that was pretty crazy about a guy who. There's been a lot of stories of this. Just people lose their money, and it's like you can't just like get it back. It's difficult, but it's the same thing. It's more secure than cash. Like if you had the same amount of cash, it'd be really difficult to get back as well, obviously. Or you have a fire in your house or something, that cash is gone.
All right, let's get to some sports side betting. I haven't talked about it too much, but I was in the Super Contest this year. For those guys who don't know, Super Contest is a $1,500 buy-in in Vegas that's turned into like this huge thing. You pick 5 games against the spread every week. It started off like small, like 10 years ago. Now it's just absolutely massive, like $1 million to first. Maybe like more than that to first now. It's crazy. But obviously you have to run like incredibly hot and hit like 65, 70% of your games for the whole year to win it. Was doing okay for a while, was a little bit over 500, and last few weeks are just totally buried. So it's over for me now. It's especially embarrassing because I believe there is a dog or a Goldfish or something like that is in like 55th place. I believe Barstool, the guys at Barstool entered a fish last year, I believe, and it finished in the top 20 or something insane like that. I don't know. Bales probably knows more than me. But, yeah, Super Contest is super fun, and I would definitely recommend it. The problem is you have to sign up in Vegas. You can't sign up anywhere else outside of Vegas. And then you have to hire a proxy to put in your picks for you, which is kind of annoying. But, yeah, Bales, do you know the story with Barstool? Because it's pretty humiliating.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years ago. It was Larry 2, I think. They have some goldfish that, of course, die every few weeks. They're goldfish, and especially if you don't take care of them or feed them, they have a habit of dying. But they would have, and they still do, they have Larry, the goldfish, in a tank, and they like sort of contain him. And then depending what side he goes to, when they uncontain him, that's the pick. And he did very well and almost won the Super Contest. And I believe that they sold like stock in Larry that year or maybe another year. And when we were going through the acquisition with Chernin, the Chernin Group, who owns Barstool Sports, they told us that like they didn't know that they were doing this, and it's completely illegal, and they're just like selling equity in this fish, and they had no idea how they were going to pay it if he won. Like they sold too much. It was a total disaster. They were going to be like really screwed actually, but yeah. So yeah, Larry the Goldfish has done well. I don't think I think they're on Larry 5 or Larry 6 right now. I don't know that he's doing that well.
All right. Anything else before we get into the picks, Peter? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to hear Bales' we talked a little pre-show about his goldfish. I wanted to hear that story as well. So, Bales, could you talk about your history of being a goldfish owner?
This isn't actually that funny of a story.
I think it's hilarious, so go for it.
Well, I've owned a few goldfish in my day, and one of them, it was actually, I didn't tell you this, I had a castle like in the middle of the aquarium, and there was like a little opening. It was an angelfish, and what was his name? I forget. It was maybe like 7, and he got stuck in the middle of the opening of the castle and died, or so I thought, and like was sort of like, he looked dead. He was like parallel to the bottom of the tank. And I took him out, and like, what do you do with goldfish? You flush them down the toilet. So I did that. And like, as I did it, like he started to swim around, like very energized.
You're a murderer.
Oh no, Bales.
And, I hit it. Oh, no, he's alive. And then I reached down and I missed. And he was living in the septic system for a while, I guess. I don't know.
A lot of food down there. Maybe it was a good life.
Yeah, I'm sure he enjoyed it. More than getting stuck in a plastic castle, I bet.
Yeah. Amazing stories. And yeah, the super contest stuff is just hilarious.
All right. Anything else before we get to this week's picks?
All right. Picks.
Yeah, last week it was a three-way tie. We each went 1-2, which was embarrassing. We have a special note here from Scott the intern. It says Peter is now 2-5 when betting on the Broncos.
Yeah, I bet on the Broncos every time it's the last pick is the last resort, and I'm wearing the Broncos to show off my skills speculating on the Broncos.
Broncos have not had a good year against the spread, let's put it that way. But they are getting Simeon back this week, and I actually think, we obviously don't talk about DFS a lot, but I think that on here, but I think Simeon and Sanders and DT are all underpriced in this matchup against Miami because they're priced as if DT and Sanders are priced as if it's Brock/Paxton. You know what I mean, Peter?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think Simeon's obviously the best guy on the roster now, and they knew that coming into the year, and they just wanted to see what they had in these other guys. So hopefully the Broncos can finish strong, and we'll see what happens.
All right, let's get to the picks. Bales, I don't believe you've gone first in a while. Why don't you go ahead?
I will go Saints and Panthers under, I think it's 48. The Saints obviously are just like not running the type of offense that they have in the past. It's running backs. They're running the ball. When they do throw the ball, it's the backs. The clock is running. They're not running as many plays. Breeze isn't throwing for those crazy yards and touchdowns like he has in the past. The game is just shortened. Playing the Panthers, probably going to be like slower pace, fewer plays than people think. Saints defense may be good, better than they were in the past. I think that 48 is a bit much, so under 48 in that one.
All right, Peter, go ahead.
All right, I am going to take the Jets +3 versus the Chiefs. Chiefs have been a total train wreck and maybe overvalued after their very hot start. I think the Jets getting 3 points here at home is intriguing, and we'll see if the Chiefs will break my heart yet again.
I am going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. When I first thought about this game, I thought that it would be around the pick, maybe like Eagles -1 or -2. And then it opened Eagles by 6, quickly went down to 3, and now is all the way back up to 6. Let me just check our Vegas page here real quick. 5.5. So I'll take Seattle plus the 5.5. I understand that the defense is a shell of its former self, but going across the country for the Eagles into a really tough environment on a Sunday night football game against Russ Wilson playing absolutely out of his mind. The Eagles will just like cover every week. It's so insane. So I'm just going to keep betting against them. So Seattle plus 5.5.
Second pick, I'll go Cowboys plus 1.5 at home against the Redskins. Cowboys stink. They've been overrated for much of the year. I get all of the issues, the injuries, but they're I don't think as bad as people think. I think that it's sort of the perception is at the valley of, everyone thinks they're a really, really, really bad team, and I don't. I think that they're probably mediocre. I think that the Redskins are about that type of team. I do like Kirk Cousins, but at home, especially with the short week, I'll take the Cowboys and the points.
All right. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills and the points. Very scary proposition going against this New England team. But right now, over on Sports Insight, it's the most lopsided percentage and money is on New England, and that's been the case for the last 2 years or whatever. I pointed out how much of a donkey Bales was going against the Patriots, and I am also a donkey, and I'm going to take the Bills versus Bill Belichick. But at home, the Ralph, tough place to play, getting more than a touchdown. Buffalo plays the way they want to play. They can control the ball a little bit, and hopefully maybe they get a backdoor cover here.
Okay, this Giants Raiders game opened Raiders by 7.5. And then it was announced that Eli Manning has been benched for Geno Smith, and the line went to 9.5. I mean, those are kind of dead numbers, but I actually think that Geno gives – I'm not saying Geno's better than Eli, but I believe that his mobility and creativity will give them at least a better shot to compete. So I think 9.5. The Raiders should not be favored by 9.5 against anybody. So I will go ahead and take the Giants and Geno plus the 9.5.
That's interesting. When did that line move? I had seen someone tweet that the line didn't move with
Yeah, I think people tried to react too quickly before it was actually back up. Like, there's some you got to be careful what book you're looking at. Like the book that I used didn't even have it up until today, this afternoon, and it came back up at 9.5. So yeah, I think people, kind of got to be careful. Like make sure when you think that the line moved, you can actually bet it. Because there's all these lines out there. People are like, oh, yeah, the line's now this, but you can't actually bet it. So,
right.
So, yeah, I think, 9.5 is where it's at now.
Okay. Last one. Is Josh Gordon playing this week?
Oh, yeah.
The resurrection, yes.
He is. Is Corey Coleman playing this week?
Yep.
He is. Browns plus 14. Complete lock. At the Chargers, there's no way they lose with those two guys on the field. I'm only semi-joking. I think that's a huge boost.
Yeah. No, that is – you get two freak athletes. Josh Gordon made a ridiculous catch last week, clearly an explosive player. Or I'm sorry, Corey Coleman made that great play. Bales, he's #good. Gordon destroying teams when he's drunk and high on the field. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it seems like he's got his life together, really rooting for him. Cool story, and it was awesome to see how authentic and how much he opened up about his past struggles. Hoping to see electric Josh Gordon, and that's a lot of points that the Browns have to cover against a team that I do buy. So that's interesting, but I like the call there, Bale.
I think that I'd be interested to hear what positions you guys think are the most underrated and overrated relative to what people think. Like we know that left tackle and defensive end and cornerback and quarterback obviously are supposed to be really valuable. I think wide receiver, having dominant wide receivers is the most underrated thing that you can have. People know that you should have that, but if I'm building a team, it's quarterback first, obviously. And then before anything, even on defense, I'm getting two dominant receivers, and Josh Gordon is like one of the most dominant receivers I've ever seen.
Yeah. One other one that's interesting to me in terms of the most lopsided money so far that I'm seeing is on Minnesota. I was going to go to the Philadelphia game next, but obviously Levitan already took that with the Seattle pick. I'm going to take the Falcons -3 here, which I think is something I'm a little nervous about, but basically going against the public here with this one. A ton of percentage of the tickets and things in general are going on Minnesota, and the line stayed exactly where it is. So I will take the Falcons.
One quick comment on Josh Gordon. Bales, are you concerned at all that he might be worse not playing drunk and high?
I did think about that.
Are you going to run the mile race drunk and high?
There, you found his secret weapon.
Do you think that you could be better slightly drunk or slightly high?
Absolutely not. You could be better at meth though, or something like that.
No, we're not. The mile's not athletic though. Yeah, meth. Very interesting.
Like PCP.
That's where people have superhuman strength, right? I mean, I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think that's PCP.
Yeah.
I just watched a documentary on PCP. It was nuts.
Sure you did. Maybe it's your own experience you're drawing from over there.
I would not do that one.
Yeah, now that you're working for the man, #regular employee life, you got to resort to drugs and stuff like that to keep your life interesting.
No, I can't. I don't know. Maybe we get randomly drug tested. Who knows?
Well, that's not going to be good for me. Out here in Colorado, I would fail one particular substance.
The last pick I'll make here is the over in the Patriots and Bills game. I believe it is at 48.5. Expecting a pass-heavy approach from both teams, really. And I think that when these teams have met, they've played an extremely fast pace. Both have played at a really fast pace lately. I think we could see a shootout here. So I think that 48.5 seems low for a Patriots game in general, especially if you think that the opponent is going to show up, and the Bills in the place formerly known as the Ralph, always counting on them to show up.
Wait. What did you just pick? You picked the under or the over?
Over in the Patriots and Bills 48.5.
Cool.
All right.
Do you like the Bill side there at all? Do you think that's really donkey, or what do you think?
Yeah, I never think a home dog side is donkey. I mean, betting against the Patriots is just like such a nightmare because they're always like inflated by at least like 2 or 3 points because the public just pounds them, and they always get there somehow. It's like so insane. I bet the Dolphins last week. I was getting 17. Of course, Patriots won by 18. So yeah, I don't know, man. Patriots are like such a massive outlier in every aspect. It's so crazy. All right. That is going to do it for another episode of the Three Donkeys podcast, for a dressed up Bales, for a hashtag BizDev Peter back from developing business. I am Adam. Good luck, everybody, this weekend.